There's a need for every one of us to know why it's so important to choose the ways of God. Let's watch together the story of Elias as he later found the good life. One day, as Elias walked through the busy marketplace, he heard some men talking loudly. These men often gave advice, but their words led people down the wrong path. They laughed at the idea of following God's ways, and their talk was full of pride. Elias felt uneasy, but he was curious and stayed to listen. Nearby, an old man named Jairus watched Elias. Jairus was quiet and wise, and people respected him for his godly life. He walked up to Elias and said, "Young man, are you looking for something more?" Elias nodded. "I want to live a good life, but I don't know how." Jairus smiled and handed him a scroll. "Read this. It will show you the way to live a blessed life." Elias opened the scroll and read, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night." Psalm 1:1-2. Elias was perplexed. What does it mean to meditate on God's law? Jairus said, "It means to think about God's word all the time, to let it guide your thoughts, words, and actions. It's like a tree planted by a river. The tree grows strong because its roots are always drinking water from the stream." He led Elias to a quiet place outside the village. There stood a tall, healthy tree by a flowing stream. Its branches were full of leaves, and its fruit was ripe. Jairus pointed to the tree and said, "This is what it looks like to live a blessed life. When you follow God's word, you will grow strong and fruitful, like this tree." "But what if I fail?" Elias asked. "What if I make mistakes?" Jairus smiled kindly. "God is full of mercy. If you fall, he will help you get back up." Psalm 37 verse 24. "Just stay close to him, and he will guide you." Elias went home that day with a new desire in his heart. He stopped listening to bad advice and turned away from people who mocked God. Instead, he began to read and think about God's word every day. Over time, his life changed. He became kind, wise, and full of peace. Years later, people in the village saw how Elias lived and came to him for help and advice. He was like the tree Jairus had shown him, strong, steady, and full of good fruit. Elias understood what the psalm meant. The Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Psalm 1:6. Elias had found true happiness by staying close to God, just like a tree planted by the waterside. Like Elias did, is not just about being moral or kind, it's about honoring God and fulfilling his purpose for us. A good life is one rooted in God's word and guided by his Spirit. Psalm 1:1-3 reminds us that those who delight in the law of the Lord are like trees planted by streams of water, producing fruit in every season. This shows that a life grounded in God's ways leads to true success and lasting peace. Elias turned away from bad influences and meditated on God's word day and night. By doing this, he became strong, fruitful, and a blessing to others. We too must reject the path of the wicked and choose righteousness. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us to trust in the Lord with all our hearts and acknowledge him in all our ways, and he will direct our paths. Living a good life also inspires others to follow God. Jesus said, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Matthew 5:16. When we live as examples of faith, kindness, and love, we reflect God's goodness to the world. Ultimately, a good life is not about perfection, but about seeking God daily. As Elias learned, God is merciful and helps us when we fail. Psalm 37:24. Let us strive to live lives that please God, bless others, and bear fruit for His glory.